What do you get when you mix beef tongue with tomato sauce? One of the most delicious dishes in the world. First, let's talk about tongues. Here I have about 3 kilos or 6 pounds of beef tongue, which may seem like a lot, but they shrink after cooking. The first thing to do is rinse the tongues under running water, because as this is not a prime cut of beef, the tongue is processed without much care by the slaughterhouses, so there is always some traces of blood cloth, ox drool, and things like that. A very important thing is never to put any kind of food in direct contact with the sink, because no matter how much you clean it, the sink is one of the places in your house with the most bacteria, so always put some kind of barrier between the sink and the food. For now, it's not necessary to remove excess fat or anything like that, as it would be a waste of time, because we'll do this after cooking. By the way, cleaning our own tongues really well is a good habit that we should all have too. Once that's done, I take a large roasting pan, because contrary to what is usually done, I'm going to roast the tongues in the oven instead of boiling them in water. With the pan ready, I sprinkle the bottom with coarse salt and add some bay leaves, a few pieces of cinnamon and some whole cloves. On top, I place the tongues and repeat what I did below. These spices will gently infuse the tongues while keeping your house from smelling like a barnyard while they bake. On top of the tongues, I place 2 sheets of aluminum foil and close the edges really well. This will retain more moisture and create an environment where the temperature will be higher than the oven temperature, making the tongue softer. And then I put it in a hot oven at 180°C 350°F. 2 hours later, the smaller tongue was done, so I removed it from the pan and continued cooking the other one as before. Then I covered the cooked tongue with aluminum foil and let it rest for 30 minutes. After that time, I cut it in half and started to peel it, as beef tongue has a connective tissue membrane which is quite hard and unpleasant. Sometimes the skin peels off very easily, other times you have to use a knife like I'm doing. If you are going to peel the tongue with a knife, be very careful, as it's already fatty meat and easily slips out of your hand. If you don't have asbestos hands like mine, you can help yourself with a fork or tongs, or even let it cool down before doing this. So I wrapped it in aluminum foil and set it aside while the other one baked. The second tongue was ready an hour after the first, so I repeated the same steps as before. The best thing you can do is buy tongues of a similar size, because the cooking will happen at the same rate. Just be careful when approaching the subject of the butcher's tongue size with him. With both tongues peeled, I wrapped it in aluminum foil and put it in the fridge until the next day. You don't have to leave the tongues in the fridge overnight or roast them in the oven. They could perfectly well be cooked in a pressure cooker and sliced shortly afterwards. But I recommend that you follow the steps that I'm showing you, because this is a dish that takes time, and in the kitchen, flavor develops slowly. Now I'm going to prepare a tomato sauce, and for that, I'm chopping a medium onion. After the onion is chopped, I put a good amount of olive oil, enough to cover the bottom of a cold pan, and then I add the onions to it, still with the heat off, and add a little bit of salt and pepper. Then I turn the heat on as low as possible, stir a little, and let it cook very gently uncovered while I prepare the bell pepper. Cooking the onion very slowly is essential to extract as much sweetness from it as possible, which will somewhat cancel out the acidity of the tomato. With the chopped bell pepper, I put it in a pan, stir it a little, and start to prepare the garlic, which I also put in a pan. And after stirring, I add some salt and pepper again. Adding a little salt and pepper for every layer of ingredients you add is a good technique, because in this way, each layer that makes up your dish will be flavorful. If you leave it to add salt later, the food tends to be bland, no matter how much salt you add, because it hasn't had the chance to penetrate all the components of your dish. Doing it this way, you just adjust the salt at the end if you need it. This base needs to cook very slowly. If you use an induction cooktop that goes from 1 to 10, choose number 2 for example. Stir occasionally and cook for a few minutes, but don't let anything go brown. Then add some tomato paste, stir, and let it continue to cook for a few minutes. This process will caramelize the sugars present in the tomato paste and is a fundamental step if you want to have a tomato sauce without too much acidity. While the base is sauteing, I prepare my tomatoes. I'm going to use canned tomatoes because for tomato sauce, it's very difficult to get fresh and ripe tomatoes in the supermarket. Sometimes you buy one that's all red and still tastes like battery acid, as supermarket tomatoes are usually picked green and ripened in chambers with the help of artificial gases, meaning there is is no time for flavor to develop. Keep an eye on the pan with the base so it doesn't burn or brown. Then add the tomatoes, stir a little and add some salt, leave over medium heat and cover. While the sauce is simmering, I slice the tongues. The thickness of the slices depends on the individual taste. I like them a little thick, but not too much. I was going to show more of this process, but my tripod wasn't cooperating. At the end of the video, I show some of the accidents I had during the recording. After slicing, I'm going to sear, so to speak, these slices in a hot, oil-free skillet. In this case, I'm using a ceramic one, but if you are using one that isn't non-stick, you need to heat the pan well and add a drop of oil before. What I'm doing is actually not searing the meat, as it's already cooked. I'm just creating a light crust on each side, which will deepen the flavor of the tongue. This is another step that is optional, but highly recommended. As I sear each batch of tongues on both sides, I add them to the sauce. When I'm done searing and putting all the slices of the tongue in the sauce, I stir it a little, reduce the heat to low and let it cook until the tongue is very soft. For me, it took about an hour and a half. From time to time, stir everything so it doesn't burn or stick. When the tongue is soft enough, adjust the salt if necessary and add frozen peas. Then mix, turn off the heat and let it rest for 15 minutes before serving. This is not a dish that you can make on a whim. It takes planning and dedication, but I promise it's some of the most delicious food you can eat. I'm eating it with bread, but you can serve it with boiled potatoes or plain rice, but don't serve it with mashed potatoes if it's made with lots of butter or cheese, because the star here is the tongue and the flavor is already strong enough, so it's better to serve with something on the opposite end of the strong spectrum. I recommend it with bread. But anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see each other in the next video. Bye.